Hello, my name is Taylor Witte, and this is my TED Talk for Comm332 on dating strangers and the online college dating scene. Stranger danger seems a little less intimidating when you have the ability to stalk strangers' social media before seeing them in person, but is it really all that different? As a senior in college, I've had my fair share of dating horror stories. I've also been able to experience some of the sketchy situations that my friends have put themselves through as they attempt to online date. Dating applications have become more and more prominent on college campuses, and while it's nice to be able to scroll through someone's Instagram before meeting them, that doesn't really help you determine if they are trustworthy or not. The purpose of this presentation is to increase college students' knowledge on safety skills that they can apply when using and meeting up with potential partners through dating applications. Through this presentation, you will learn skills that will help you date strategically and prevent you and others from getting into dangerous and uncomfortable situations. You will develop skills that will allow you to interact with and analyze potential partners from dating apps so that you agree on encounters that will be smart and safe. Today, we will examine how to set goals and expectations with online partners, sources that will help you further inspect your dates, and safety tips for setting up safe dates. Hopefully, these skills will allow you and your friends to go on smarter dates with more trustworthy partners. We will start off our presentation by discussing good conversation tips and warning signs to identify the goals and set expectations for you and your online matches. It is key that you identify and assess what your potential date's motives are before making any plans to meet. Here are some important things to consider when online dating. Before we even get into your potential matches' motives, be sure to understand the motives of the application itself. Dating apps like Tinder and Bumble require its users to enable location services, which is how you find users in your area. But it's important to make sure that your location and data isn't being used or sold for other nefarious purposes. According to a 2018 New York Times article by Valentino DeVries et al., entitled "Your Apps Know Where You Were Last Night, and They're Not Keeping It a Secret," mentioned that, quote, at least 75 companies receive anonymous, precise location data from apps whose users enable location services to get their local news and weather or other information. Several of those businesses claim to track up to 200 million mobile devices in the United States, about half of those in use last year. Once you have verified the legitimacy and security of these applications you are using, you can begin matching with potential partners. The next important step would be to make sure that both parties' expectations are expressed clearly, discussed, and understood before the initial in-person meeting. Identifying your potential date's motives is also imperative to the success of the date. It is in your best interest to identify these driving factors so neither person is put in a risky or uncomfortable situation. Users must also understand the dangerous positions that they could be putting themselves in when partaking in these encounters, especially if they are not thoroughly vetting their matches beforehand. To better understand what these potential negative outcomes could be, we will look at the 2019 Solis and Long study, To Meet or Not to Meet, in which they analyzed the motives and risks of mobile dating applications in China. Some of the common negative outcomes that the study noted included, quote, lies and deceit, emotional and sexual risks, including pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. Physical risks, such as violence, were all risks of encountering dangerous and untrustworthy people online and in person. Following in the same vein, let's look at some clear conversational warning signs. Be cautious of conversations that continuously lead toward topics that you have expressed a disinterest in discussing or that make you uncomfortable. If this happens, it is likely a sign that your partner does not have much respect for you and your boundaries. Following this, if the other party has not acknowledged the boundaries that you have set or made their boundaries unclear, these are also warning signs. It's important to make sure that you are both in agreement about where you stand and your expectations. An unwillingness to accommodate your requests, such as not giving you their full name, not allowing contact outside of the app, and not allowing you to make any decisive calls about potential meetings are also warning signs. The 2018 McLaurin and Dean's article, Too Hot to Handle, talks about the effects of edited photos on dating app perceptions. In the article, they mentioned that, quote, unenhanced profiles pictures will generate higher perceptions of trustworthiness for the person featured in the dating app compared to enhanced profile pictures, end quote. Highly edited pictures on one's profile can be cause for concern, as they could be a sign of a fraudulent account. Overly edited photos can also be deceptive of the account's owner's true appearance. Thus, highly edited photos in one's profile could be a warning sign of deception. Online profiles also allow the control over self-presentation. Sherry Turkle does a great job at explaining this phenomenon in her 2012 TED Talk entitled Connected But Alone, where she explains, quote, texting, email, posting, all of these things let us present the self as we want to be. We get to edit, and that means we get to delete, and that means we get to retouch the face, the voice, the flesh, the body, end quote. This realization reinforces the importance of being cautious about one's online self-presentation. Now that we have discussed some conversational points and warning signs, we will move on to discussing how to thoroughly inspect your date before agreeing to meet in person. For many reasons, only knowing your date's first name isn't enough. If you want to feel safe and secure, you better do your research. Your safety should be your utmost concern. After identifying the expectations of both parties and consenting towards those potential items, you must now make sure that there aren't any glaring warning signs. It's a fine line between getting the information you want and not giving away too much about yourself. So, how do you ask for the information you need? In order to find someone's personal social media accounts off of sites like Tinder and Bumble, you'll need to know their last name. If they're unwilling to give you that information, this is in fact a red flag. If you find that their social media accounts are privatized, I would encourage you to follow them. If you don't feel comfortable following their social media, ask yourself why you would feel safer going on a date with them. So, what information are you looking for? Personality, interests, as well as the people that they are friends with and how they interact. Some things that you should be cautious of are, if they are unwilling to let you follow these accounts, this could allude to infidelity or suspicious activity, as well as any questionable posts, such as posts and comments that seem to be threatening or harmful, or inconsistencies between the two profiles. I would, of course, also encourage you to do further investigating. Try and find information about them through search engines. You may be able to find information that isn't readily available on their social medias. Also, if you're in a state that the police records are public information, it would be beneficial to check those out as well. Moving forward on what to do with the information that you find. If the information is not alarming, and you still are interested in moving forward, I would suggest that you share the information that you find with your friends. You can also use the information that you have learned as conversation starters, so you decide to meet in person later on. If the information that you find is alarming, find a way to cleanly sever ties with the person. Indicate that your feelings have changed and that you are no longer interested in pursuing whatever relationship you were moving towards. Then unfollow them from the dating apps and any other social medias that you have connected with this person on. If you are dissatisfied with the dating application you're using, don't be afraid to explore other options until you find the one that you are comfortable with. In the Eddington and Busnell chapter of the Routledge Handbook of Gender and Communication 2020, they reference a 2017 Jessica Bennett article about the safety benefits of using the dating app Bumble. In this chapter, they mention, quote, Bumble aims to be a little less agonizing for women. It features photo verification that assuages users' fears that they may be getting catfished, and security that make it easier to report harassment. The company says its abuse report rate is among the lowest of its competitors at 0.005%. Now that we have discussed some resources to examine before going on your date, we will move on. The last piece of advice we will go over is safety precautions that you should utilize on the day of your encounter. Here are some tips on creating a tactical safety team. Who should be a part of your team? Your team should be comprised of your friends that you know well and that you can rely on. These people should be aware of the time, location, and name of your date. Having a picture of your date is a good rule of thumb also. What are the expectations of your team? All the members of your team should have fully charged phones and are expected to be checking for messages from you throughout the duration of your date. They should have access to your location through iMessage or another app such as Snapchat. This will allow them to identify where you are should you not be responding to their messages. You should also determine a code phrase that signifies to your team that the date has moved to an uncomfortable territory and you need their help to return home soon. These tips should ensure that if you cannot go on a group or double date, that you have people that are watching and waiting out for you. Setting up and guiding the date to your liking. Plan to meet at a location you are familiar with and is in public. Tinder's website has helpful resources to help you plan safe dates. Some notable tips from Tinder's 2019 article suggest to, quote, meet in public and stay in public. Be in control of your own transportation, know your limits, and if you feel uncomfortable, leave. If you are unsure about how to end a date, it may be helpful to set up a code with your friends to have them assist you in prematurely ending the event. Another good strategy is to have a pre-planned cutoff time. This means that at the beginning of the date, you mention that you have plans to meet up with friends later on. Laura Pitcher's new 2019 AARP article also has some other helpful tips for online dating safety. One of which is to make sure that you, quote, check in with your team after the date is over so there's someone who can come looking for you immediately if something doesn't go the way it's expected, end quote. Once your team is informed that you made it home safe from your date, they know that they no longer need to be checking on you. Now that we have discussed safety tips that you can utilize on the day of your date, we will be moving on to our conclusion. Throughout this presentation, we have explained skills that will help you date strategically and prevent you and others from getting into dangerous and uncomfortable situations. These skills will allow you to interact with and analyze potential partners from dating apps so that you can agree on encounters that will be smart and safe. Through this presentation, we have discussed how to set up goals and expectations with online partners, sources that will help you further inspect your dates, and safety tips for setting up dates. By using these tips, we hope that your dating escapades will be safer and more enjoyable for you and your friends. Remember, hot strangers are still strangers. And without fully vetting that beforehand, you have no idea what dangers lie ahead.